Imagine such a tall wall that you can see it from miles away. But this is no ordinary wall. It is a monument of testimonies. Each brick is digitally linked to a story of answered prayer, and there are 1,000,000 bricks, miracles, healings, restored marriages, and transformed lives. It's called the Eternal Wall of Answered Prayer, and it's estimated to be completely built by 2027 in Coleshill, near Birmingham, in the heart of England. It will be over 50 meters high and is designed as an infinite loop, symbolizing the eternal nature of God.
Wow, I'd love to visit it.
Bricks with divine stories. What a great idea.
Well, the idea of erecting monuments that remind us of God's grace is biblical. In fact, it was God Himself who asked the Israelites to take 12 stones from the Jordan River and build a monument to remind them of God's wonders. The goal was clear: never forget. Sabbath School Like presents the series Joshua's Lessons About Faith. Lesson 3, Monuments of Grace. Human beings tend to have a curious condition. We remember every bad thing and quickly forget the blessings we have received. We remember in great detail when we were treated unfairly, when we got a bad grade, when someone cut in line at lunchtime, or when that brother criticized us for going up to the pulpit with our skirt 3 fingers above our ankles. But we forget with surprising speed the times God protected us from an accident, answered a prayer we had made in tears, healed us when the doctors didn't know what to do, or helped us find our car keys when we thought the garbage truck had taken them away. Such is our selective memory. We file offenses in important folders, but blessings go into the recycling bin. This week, through Joshua, God invites us to write blessings on eternal stones that serve as memorials of His grace. So, this week's question is, how does Israel's experience on the Jordan River teach us to never forget God's wonders? First, wonders on the Jordan River. The Israelites arrived near the Jordan River at a very particular moment. Joshua 3:15 says that the Jordan River usually overflows its banks during the harvest season.
So it wasn't actually shallow.
The river was at its peak.
That's right. However, God chose that moment to split the river. Why? Because that's how God is. He loves to act when it seems like there's no way out, so that we know it was Him and not a chain of coincidences that opened the way. Before the miracle, Joshua used the word worthy of attention. Consecrate yourselves, for tomorrow the Lord will work wonders among you. Wonders. The Hebrew word niflaot usually refers to God's powerful and supernatural acts, demonstrating that He is not limited by the laws of nature. The plagues of Egypt, the crossing of the Red Sea, and God's leading through the desert were described with the root of that same word. But what were they required to do before seeing God's wonders on the Jordan River? Kadesh. Sanctify themselves, consecrate themselves, abandon sin, get set as they did before going into battle. Why? Because God's children go to war with God on the front lines. Before going to war, anyone takes rifles, missiles, tanks, drones. But what was the first thing Israel took? The Ark of the Covenant. The Ark was the most sacred object in the sanctuary and contained 3 elements that recalled God's special relationship with Israel: the tablets with the 10 Commandments, the rod of High Priest Aaron, and a pot of manna. But in addition, between the golden cherubim that covered the ark, the Shekinah, the very presence of God, was manifested. Yes, they would see wonders, but only if they consecrated themselves and put God first, and so they did. When the priests carrying the ark set foot in the river, the water stopped, as if the hand of God were an invisible dam. The descending water ceased, and the Israelites crossed over to Jericho on dry ground. Did you notice? If you want to see the wonders of God, step into the waters of the Jordan River, even if it seems so deep, but step into it clinging to God with all your strength and sanctify yourselves, for tomorrow the Lord will work wonders among you. Second, remembering wonders. When the Israelites finished crossing the Jordan, God did not say to them, "Well, you've crossed over. Hurry up. The battle awaits you." No, God asked them to stop and build a monument. Stop. A monument in the middle of the way? Exactly. Joshua 4 says that God commanded them to choose one man from each tribe to take a stone from the river and erect a monument. 12 tribes, 12 stones. For what purpose? This is to be a sign among you, and when your children ask their fathers tomorrow, what do these stones mean? You will answer them, the waters of the Jordan were asleep before the ark of the covenant of the Lord.
It was a monument not to glorify Joshua or the people,
but to remember what God had done.
Like the eternal wall of answered prayer.
Exactly. God knows that we humans are good at asking, but terrible at remembering. He knew that one day, years later, there would be children playing near the river, looking at those big stones and asking, Dad, what are those stones? And their parents would tell them the story of how they crossed the Jordan on dry ground because God opened the river. That was the purpose of the monument, never to forget God's grace. Do you know what's interesting? Joshua increased the dose. Instead of one, he erected 2 monuments, one in Gilgal, where they camped for the first time after crossing the river, and another on the shore of the Jordan River itself. Did you notice? Faith is nourished by the word and prayer, but it is strengthened by memory. That is why God commanded us to remember. The Sabbath, for example, is a weekly monument to remember that He is the Creator. The Lord's Supper is a monument to remember the cross. Baptism is a monument to new birth, and personal testimonies are also living monuments to God's grace. How about building your own monuments? Because if we forget what God has done, we will not know how to trust in what He will do. Aunt Elena confirms this.
We have nothing to fear from the future unless we forget the way the Lord has led us and what He has taught us in our past history.
And third, experiencing the wonders. All right, let's see if the monuments of grace work. Psalm 66 recalls both the crossing of the Red Sea and the crossing of the Jordan River. The sea was laid dry. They passed through the river on foot. There we rejoiced in it. There we rejoiced in it. Who wrote Psalm 66?
The senior psalmist, King David.
And did David experience crossing the Red Sea or the Jordan River?
No, he wasn't even born yet.
Then why does he write as if he had experienced it? Listen up. Without a doubt, Salmon, who became Rahab's husband, was one of those who crossed the Jordan on dry ground. From that marriage, Boaz was born, who married Ruth, the one from the biblical book that bears her name. Boaz and Ruth were the parents of Obed. Obed was the father of Jesse, and Jesse was the father of King David. How many generations passed from Salmon to David?
4 generations.
And David writes about it as if he had experienced it himself. Why? Because monuments of grace were because David heard from childhood that his great-great-grandfather Salmon crossed the Jordan by grace, that his great-great-grandmother Rahab was saved by grace, that his great-grandmother Ruth was redeemed by grace. And possibly, as a child one day, he saw that pile of stones and asked, "What does this mean?" And so grace passed on to his generation, because not all of us can experience the event, but we can all experience grace. And so it passed on to Jesus, who curiously also left Egypt after a death decree, spent 40 days in the desert, a bit similar to the 40 years of Israel, and was also baptized in the same Jordan River. Someday, I would love to visit that wall in England and see brick by brick the stories of people who experienced God's grace. But you don't have to travel that far. You too can build monuments of grace in your own life. Has God done wonders for you? Write them down. Tell them. Teach them to your children, your friends, your church. Because when you see God's wonders and raise monuments of grace, you enable yourself and many others to live out those wonders in such a way that each testimony is a living stone that cries out, "God has been good to me." Or, as Samuel said when he erected another stone monument, which he called Ebenezer, "Thus far the Lord has helped us." Do you want to support our ministry so we can keep filling the internet with content that truly matters? Content that educates the whole family around the message of Christ. Scan the QR code or visit the link in the video description and support us. Remember, together we can grow more.